Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a brand new episode of Dueling on the Edge. I'm your host, Straight Edge Warrior, aka Warrior Edge, aka Void SXE Warrior. We're the Void Clan now. And today I'm bringing you my Trickstar deck. Now, I'm aware that this deck is not the most popular. Quite honestly, I hate running hand traps, but you gotta do what you gotta do. I just want to go on note that one of my friends actually helps me out with this deck. She gives me tips and stuff, helps me test it. So there's that disclaimer. And this is the most recent build of my Trickstar deck. It is my second Trickstar deck. Currently we have a clan tournament going on, and due to the rules of the tournament, I'm not able to change any cards in the deck at the current time until the end of the tournament. So expect some changes to this by the next time I upload an episode of Dueling on the Edge with this deck. So without further ado, let's get into things. 3 Ash Blossom, Enjoy Spring. I hate this card. It's an expensive card. You gotta run 3 because otherwise your opponents are not going to give you any chance of winning. That's just fact. Coming up next, 3, Droll and Lockbird. Honestly, this card needs to be hit. I don't care what anybody says. It needs to go to 1, needs to go to 2. They need to hit some type of hand trap because hand traps are out of control. Droll and Lock, your opponent goes to search. After they get their search, drop Droll and Lock. They can't draw anything else for the rest of the turn. You combo that later on. We'll get to it. You probably already know what it is. 2 Effect Veiler, because hand trap, and this one is actually a quick effect in your opponent's turn. The only downside is it targets a monster, negates the effects till the end of the turn. So you can't touch target. You can't touch monsters that can't be targeted. 3 Trickstar Candina. Candina is your go-to monster. When she's normal summon, you can add any Trickstar card from your deck to your hand. Her little gimmick effect. All Trickstars have a gimmick, in case you guys didn't know. Her that burn you for damage, depending on what goes on. Her little gimmick effect. Each time your opponent activates a spell or trap card, inflict 200 points of damage to them after that card effect resolves. Trickstar Lilybell. You can put in a little, you can do a little loop. From what I've seen with Lilybell, your opponent, that loop can end games if the life points are low enough. When she's added to the hand, except by drawing it, you can special summon her. But if you do, you can only use that effect of Lilybell once per turn. That's part of that combo. Oops. Let me go add that back in. Didn't mean to do that. Okay, that's back. I run 2 of her. Her little gimmick effect. When she inflicts battle damage to the opponent, you can target a Trickstar monster in your graveyard and add it back to your hand, so there's some recycling for you. And my personal favorite, 3 Trickstar Lycoris. This is the one you don't want to see because, well, you don't want to see any of them, but this is the one that's going to burn you the most because Well, we'll get into it. Quick effect. So you can activate this at any time during either player's turn. You can reveal her in your hand, and then target one of your Trickstar monsters. Special, except for another Lycanroc. You can't target another one of herself. Summon her, and then bounce back that monster that you targeted. So it's an easy way to get to dodge different effects. Like say your opponent went to target one of your monsters or something. Use Lycanroc, bounce her to the field, bounce the monster they're targeting off the field, and then she's on the field. And then her gimmick: each time a card is added to your opponent's hand, inflict 200 points of damage for each card. So you can already see where that's a problem. I run 2 Trickstar Narcissuses. I think I said that correctly. When your opponent takes damage by a card effect, except during the damage step. So that kind of gets me a few times. You can special summon her. You can only use that effect of Narcissus once per turn. Every time your opponent activates a monster card effect in their hand or graveyard, so hand traps, inflict 200 points to them. You won't really see Narcissus much because your main focus will be Candina, Lycanroc, Lilybell. So, 1 Monster Reborn because staple. Gotta run Monster Reborn. It's at 1, you gotta run it. 3 MST. Get rid of the back row. I personally like MST better. Personal preference. 1 Raigeki. Clear the field. Another staple. 2 Scapegoats. I don't. Mainly this is in there for the Mrs. Radiant. But as soon as I'm able to change the extra deck, that's the one area where I am going to fix after this tournament that's going on, as I've gotten some feedback to tell me how to do better plays. Thank you, Mark, aka Void X Death. 3 Terraforming searches out the field spell. This deck is very search heavy. Speaking of that field spell, Trickstar Light Stage. This card is a pain. Oh, come on. When you activate Trickstar Light Stage, you're able to add 1 Trickstar monster to your hand. Any Trickstar monster from your deck to your hand, and then it's got another effect where you can target 1 set card in your opponent's spell or trap card zone. While this card is in the field zone, that set card cannot be activated until the end phase, and your opponent must activate it during the end phase. If it can resolve, then it resolves then. However, if it can't activate during the end phase, it's sent to the graveyard, meaning that card is dead. Simple as that. So, it's an easy way to get rid of problematic cards if you hit the right one. Assuming your opponent doesn't take stage off the board. But a lot of people will hit you with Ash Blossom, and it'll negate the effect of Trickstar Light Stage. Then it's got a third gimmick. Yeah, it's one of those. Each time a Trickstar monster you control inflicts battle or effect damage, so any damage whatsoever from a Trickstar monster, inflict 200 more points of damage on top of that. So, Candina, you activate a spell card. Candina burns you for 200. Light Stage burns you for another 200. Candina attacks you directly. You take 1800 because that's what Candina's attack points are. And then you take another 200 on top of that because of Light Stage. Same thing with difference. That's how you get the point. I run 2 Solemn Strike and a Solemn Warning. With Torrential Tribute more viable, I figure just kill the monsters when they're summoned instead of negating their summon altogether, because that's 1,500 points that I'd rather not spend. It's also another reason why I'm not running Judgment, Solemn Judgment, which is at 1 now. I'm not paying half my life points just to get the card off. Torrential Tribute, run that at 3. Easily stops your opponent from spamming the board with link monsters. Trickstar Reincarnation. This card needs to be hit on the ban list. It can either go all together and then this deck is dead, or this thing needs to go to at least 2, because this thing cannot be at 3. Banish your opponent's entire hand, and if you do, they draw the same number of cards. That's unfair. I'm just gonna put that blankly. That is unfair to the opponent. Call me a hypocrite for even using this deck and saying that's unfair. I know it's unfair, but I like this deck. This thing needs to go though. This card you combo with Draw and Lock. Your opponent will search. They get their search. You drop Draw and Lock, and then you drop Trickstar Reincarnation. Banish everything in their hand, and then they can't draw a thing because of Trickstar Reincarnation. And then this thing also has a grave effect. You can banish it from the graveyard and target a Trickstar monster in your graveyard and special summon it. So even after it's sent to the graveyard, it still could cause problems because it can summon another monster. I don't really touch my side deck much, but I figure I have to have a side deck. So this is what I have for a side deck. You can run whatever you want as your side deck. I have the Mad Flame Kaiju and the Sea Turtle Kaiju, along with Interrupted Kaiju Slumber. Just 3 cards I figure would work. I'm not a side deck person, so 3 Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit. Not as overly used as the other hand traps in the main deck, but can still help you, I guess. 3 Called by the Grave. You target a monster in your opponent's graveyard, banish it, and if you do, until the end of the next turn, its effects are negated, as well as effects of the monsters with the same original name on the field. So, assuming that they already used a hand trap against you, use Call by the Grave, banish it from their graveyard. They can't use another one till the end of the next turn on you of that same card. So, Cosmic Cyclone. Again, I like MST better, but banishing is wonders. Another Scapegoat just to fill the spot, I guess. 2 Twin Twisters. I find this more useful than Cosmic Cyclone, but you usually don't want to get rid of your cards with this deck, so discarding one can hurt you. And then another card that I personally despise, but I run it because, well, it's unfair. If it's going to be used unfairly against me, I'm going to use it unfairly against somebody else. Evenly matched. This card is... I like Reincarnation more than I like this card. At the end of the battle phase, if your opponent controls more cards than you do, you can make them banish from their field face down, so literally no recovery unless you run Necrophase. So they control the same number of cards as you do. And if you control no cards whatsoever, you can activate this card from your hand, meaning when this card is activated, you only have 1 card, which means your opponent gets rid of everything but 1 card. So say they have a whole board. They can't stop it because most cards can't be prevented from banishing. So unfair. I hate this card. And then for my extra deck, as I said, is going to change. I like Castell, as well as 101 Silent Honor Arc. And I like Utopia with Utopia the Lightning for Xyz monsters. Because rank 4 toolbox, I have 2 Narcissuses and 3 Candina. You won't you usually never see me go into Xyz monsters. You probably never will, unless the situation calls for it. But they're there in case the situation calls for it. And then getting into the Link monsters, this is where it's gonna start changing. Horrorload Dragon, very expensive card still. You need 3 effect monsters, 3 plus effect monsters. Excuse me. It's got a Link rating of 4. Neither player can target it with a card effect. A monster effect, rather. And once per turn, this is a quick effect. You can target one face-up monster on the field. It loses 500 attack and defense, and your opponent can't activate anything in response to this activation. At the start of the damage step, if this card attacks an opponent's monster, you can place that opponent's monster in a zone that this card points to and take control of it, but then you send it to the graveyard during the end phase of the next turn. Me and Mark have we both recently used this, like you used to use Big Eye in Dragon Ruler era, uh, where you would your opponent would play one, and then you would play one to get over your opponents and use it against them. It's like one of the only ways you can really get over Borreload unless you are stronger than it. Decode Talker, because you need Decode Talker is just that general Link monster that everybody runs. You need 2 plus effect monsters. This deck only runs on effect monsters. It's got a Link rating of 3. Gains 500 attack for each monster it points to. If your opponent activates a card or effect that targets a card you control, a quick effect, you contribute one monster that this card points to and negate the activation. If you do, destroy that card. Unfortunately, you can't tribute a monster that it points up to. You can only do the ones that point down. Firewall Dragon, very polarizing card. You need 2 plus monsters, and it's got a Link rating of 4. Once while this card is face up, quick effect. They all have quick effect for whatever reason. You can target monsters on the field and or in the graveyard up to the number of monsters that are co-linked to it and return them to the hand. If a monster this card points to is destroyed by battle or sent to the graveyard, you can special summon a monster from your hand. A lot of people think this card needs to be banned outright. If it does, it'll be history in the making, because I don't believe any main protagonist's ace monster was ever banned. I don't think it's even gotten this far. At 1. Anyways, moving on. Link Karibo, another general one for Scapegoat. When an opponent's monster declares an attack, you contribute this card. Change that opponent's attack to 0 until the end of the turn. This card's in your graveyard. Quick effect, you contribute 1 level 1 monster and special summon this card. And you can only use that effect of Link Karibo once per turn. So you contribute it. Well, you can use a Scapegoat to play it. Your opponent attacks, you can send Link Karibo to the graveyard, and then you contribute one of your Scapegoat tokens that are left and bring it right back. Mrs. Radiant, 2 Earth monsters are required to play it. It's Link 2. Very popular card in decks as well. Another general one. All Earth monsters on the field gain 500 attack and defense. All Wind monsters on the field lose 400 attack and defense. If this card is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can target 1 Earth monster in your graveyard and add it to your hand. You can only use this effect once per turn. Gookie players like to run this because all the Gookies are Earth attributed. Trickstar Black Cat Bat. This is one of the ones I'm probably taking out for one of the things that suggested to me, so I'm just gonna ignore that. Same thing with Crimson Heart or Bloody Mary. I'm used to seeing it as Bloody Mary, so I'm not gonna call it Crimson Heart. And then Delphinium. I'm probably taking that one out too. But 2 Trickstar Holly Angel. This is really like this is the link monster you'll probably go into the most. Because basically this deck is all about burning. Trickstar Holly Angel, you need 2 Trickstar monsters. Any 2. It's got a link rating of 2. Each time a Trickstar monster is normal or special summoned to a zone that this card points to, inflict 200 points of damage to your opponent. The gimmicks continue. Trickstar monsters that this card points to cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects, so protection for the ones that it points to. If your opponent takes damage by a Trickstar monster's effect, that this card will gain attack equal to the damage they took until the end of the turn. That's every Trickstar monster's effect. So every time a Trickstar monster's effect goes off and burns you for damage, this card will gain that same amount until the end of the turn. You see the problem. Anyways, this is my Trickstar deck, and I will be updating this later on. Expect another episode of this season. I don't even know when this season's going to end, because it's fairly at the beginning. I just haven't been bothered enough to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Recently, so just thought I put this deck up there. This is the one I am using in the tournament, my clan tournament. After I update it, start using it, seeing how that version goes, I'll probably come back and post an updated video. But I just want to thank once again in advance Void X Death, aka the other co-leader of my clan. He and I co-lead the clan together, for giving me the suggestions of what to use in the extra deck. And then I also want to thank Soaring Eagle, one of my friends on Dueling Book. She for helping me with this deck and helping me test it out, giving me tips on what to use, showing me combos and stuff. Thank you to both of you, and thank you guys for joining me in this episode of Dueling on the Edge. I have another Dueling on the Edge series where I post duel videos. I'll tell you what, I'll after the tournament is over, I will upload all of my tournament matches to the to that series. That will obviously it's going to be on this channel. But it'll be for that Dueling on the Edge series. Thank you everybody for watching, and I will see you guys in the future. Adios.